the cloud. There we go.
Recording in progress.
So there we go. So we will begin, as we do in everything else, with prayer. And we'll do the prayer for the canonization of Blessed Michael McGivney. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God our Father, protector of the poor and defender of the widow and orphan, you called your priest, Blessed Michael McGivney, to be an apostle of Christian family life and to lead the young to the generous service of their neighbor. Through the example of his life and virtue, may we follow your Son, Jesus Christ, more closely, fulfilling his commandment of charity and building up his body, which is the church. Let the inspiration of your servant prompt us to greater confidence in your love, so that we may continue his work of caring for the needy and the outcast. We humbly ask that you glorify Blessed Michael McGivney on earth according to the design of your holy will. Through his intercession, grant the favors we now present in the silence of our hearts. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So briefly for this evening, our agenda is going to be as follows. We have an introduction. Once again, my name is Jim Maslach. I'm the current state advocate and your diocesan officer for the Cleveland Diocese. Tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about having just an overall financial secretary overview and give you some pointers about that. We're going to introduce you to the Supreme and state resources that are available to you. And then we're going to get into really the meat and potatoes of tonight's presentation, submitting a Form 100, working within member management, and the member billing and council accounting, so forth. We'll wrap it up by having next step that kind of figure out what it is we are going to do. And of course, we will close in prayer. So let's take a look at this position. So you want to be a financial secretary. Financial secretary is such a crucial point. I mean, it's an integral part of the structure of the Knights of Columbus, as you can see by some of these quotes by Virgil Decken, who's a past Supreme Knight. The financial secretary is appointed by the Supreme Knight. It is a position that is not elected by the council, but it has a direct effect on its council members, the officers, the state council, as well as Supreme Council. And Pope Francis kind of wrapped things up here by simply saying that fraternal relations between people, which let's say the financial secretary and all those groups that we mentioned, and cooperation in building a more just society, it's not just an idealistic dream, but is the fruit of a concerted effort on the part of all in the service for the common good. And that's really wraps up a lot about what it says about the position of the financial secretary, is that it's a concerted effort of the part of all for the service of the common good of the entire council. Some of the duties that a financial secretary happen to have to deal with, once again, it's a recommendation by the Grand Knight and the trustees, and is appointed to a 3-year term by the Supreme Knight. The prospective financial secretary must also complete and submit his application, which is a financial secretary form 101. Then under section 130 of the laws and the order, the financial secretary is automatically bonded in the amount of $5,000, which is a good thing. Now you could purchase additional bonding if you would like to at $7 per 1,000, but you have to do that. You need to contact the Supreme Secretary's office. The primary function of the financial secretary is to collect monies in the forms of dues from members, responsible for sending billing notices out, initiating retention measures by providing lists of delinquent members to the Grand Knight to prevent members from being suspended for non-payment of dues. He also ensures that the council membership records are up to date and that new members sign the constitutional roll. He receives from the Supreme Council headquarters the honorary and honorary life membership cards for distribution for qualified members. He also will file various reports and membership and insurance transactions with the Supreme Council headquarters. He's responsible for completing and submitting the proper 990 for the council, which is an IRS form, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. He also is the keeper of the seal of the council. And he makes sure that he affixes that to every membership card, any resolutions that the council is going to make, and any other official documents as they see necessary. So what are some of the keys to being a good financial secretary? First and foremost, it's like anything else in life, you've got to be organized. If you're not organized, it becomes chaos really quick. Keep those council membership records current to the best of your ability. I understand it's not easy because it's not just all of you. You have to rely on the information that is given to you. You want to process dues and membership cards in a timely fashion. Here's one of the things that I think is really important, and I left something out of here. Form good relationships with the members of your council, state council, which I left out, and the Supreme Council. All three of those are great places, great resources, and great places to have relationships. Obviously, you want to keep an accurate account of the money that flows from your council, that's in and out. You want to have a working knowledge of the laws and order, the council bylaws, and assist members to adhere to them. It's not your primary job to worry about those, but you should have a working knowledge of them. The advocate of the council should be the one that is the primary concern of those. You're going to provide your receipts and your records for the semi-annual audits. And hopefully you are using already, or you're going to be looking into using, member management and member billing applications. This has always been a stickler one. The board of directors has set the compensation to be paid to a financial secretary, and every council should have bylaws that conform exactly to this policy. And I read that verbatim because it is in the bylaws that the advocate could be rewriting through Supreme that you can get between 8 and 10% of the dues collected from both insurance and associate members. Nothing else, just dues. Typically, lump sum payments are not allowed as compensation, but I'm sure that you can work something out. And the approved compensation is for performance of your regular duties of the office of the financial secretary, which is in accordance to the laws and rules of the order. Now, anytime you get paid, especially outside of work, you know that you may end up having a 1099 submitted to you. In some councils, if you are large enough and you are being compensated at an amount and it exceeds the $599.99, as you see here, Supreme will then send you a 1099 MISC form. If it's under that amount, you won't see it. Be noted, you are not treated as an employee of either the local council or the Supreme Council. It just happens to be a way to provide compensation for you doing your normal routine duties. We mentioned the bonding earlier, and automatically upon approval, the FS is granted an amount of $5,000 worth of bonding. And you can request additional coverage, as we said earlier. Bonding, though, is on the office of the financial secretary, not the person. So if he happens to move on and decides and somebody else comes in that shoes, that person then, once approved by the Supreme Council, is bonded, not the person who left. That person loses it. Bonding typically runs March 1st to the end of February, and it gets renewed. But here's the key thing in this entire statement on this slide. Bonding coverage is applicable only to councils who have completed the 2 most recent council audits, which must be filed at the Supreme headquarters. That is the Form 1295. If you don't file those 2 forms, you lose your bonding. And that includes the $5,000 bonding. So that's one reason why we, at the state level, I'm going to say hamper, but I want to say try to encourage you to submit those in a relatively timely fashion and on time. As we mentioned before, the financial secretary will also help handle the Form 990 IRS tax form, as most of you are aware. And there are several different forms that have to be filled out depending on the amount of money and the transactions that your council does. Most of the time, my council in the postcard version, which is the gross receipts, are far $1,000, but there are some councils that do excessively well, and corporations too. So You need to figure out exactly where you are going to file and what documentation you're going to need to do. The IRS form must be filled out by the 15th day of the 5th month after our annual accounting period, which happens to end June 30th. Therefore, you typically have to about October 15th to be able to get that information into the government. Failure to file 3 consecutive years will result in the loss of your tax exemption status. So please remember, councils are a 501c8, Fraternal Benefit Society. We are not a 501c3. So there's a difference between those two, but you will still lose your tax exempt status if you do not file this 990. So please, if you need to make sure if you need to file that, check it out by going to irs.gov and they will be able to lead you in the right place. Here I try to put together a little bit of a timeline. It's probably a little bit on the blurry side, but it try to give you an idea of when forms are due, when per capita is due, the membership billing period, and some of the activities you got to go on through that. And then I started to throw in some things on council operations, mostly just about when elections are. And you can see it's pretty much takes over the entire year. Billing takes up that December to May, June time period. Really, you can blend that over a little bit. So it is a really almost like a full-time job to some degree, depending on how much and how many people you need to handle through your office. All right, so now it's going to get a little spicy because I'm going to try something here. I'm going to switch over to my internet. So I want to introduce to you 2 sources that are crucial for council operations. And I'm going to pick on the first one here is the state council's website. And that's at www.kofcohio.org. And we've spent a lot of time over the last 3 years, first under immediate past State Deputy Bob Byers, to really reshape the website to be something of a source of information for our councils, as well as for those who are checking us out to see who and what we are. And I'm going to briefly say there's a section here under About Us that explains some of the different things, has a neat map if you want to see where any of the councils are in the state of Ohio. But these other ones, programs, any state program, Measure Up, matching funds, support our seminarians. All that information is right here. The forms that you will need to submit to the state are going to be in this section here under the appropriate program. Fundraisers. Right now we're in the middle of the football frenzy. Any documentation you want to see with the football frenzy is right there, which includes the letters that Gary put together, as well as the turn-in forms and so forth. As the winners start to come out each week, Gary will send those to me and then I will post them on here as well so people can check out, see if they won or not. And eventually there will be an update to the Super Cash Bonanza as State Treasurer Mike Polerski is starting to put his program together for that. There are some state-sponsored activities, and we put them all here so that you can be able to check any of them out. The state camp out, which is always done in July. The Silver Rose, which we had this last year. State convention, state tour, and we'll have some Supreme Convention information once we get that updated. That'll all be right here. The 2 key areas I really want to stress upon is these pubs and resources. And this is an area where we really tried, hopefully it'll click over, there it goes, to take the information that is in booklets from the state website, state manuals, such as the District Deputy Manual, the General Program Manual, Membership Manual, put them here for you. We've linked Supreme's guidelines and so forth here for you. So you don't have to go hunting on the Supreme website to find them. They will all be right here. As well as we've also put any of the old newsletters or current newsletters that we happen to have available for you to use as a reference. So please feel free to go through here. And if you find something that is not on this list that you think should be, please just simply send myself an email and we'll make sure that it gets on there. The last section you see are links, and those are links to the Supreme Council. If your local council has a website, by all means, and it's not on here, we can simply add that by sending us an email saying, hey, please add my council to your list. The next section, which is just as equally important, is forms and emails. And this is a section where we try once again to, I'm going to scroll this up a little bit so you can see it. There we go. To try to bring over the Supreme forms that are most commonly going to be used by either the district deputies or councils. We do not have assemblies and stuff on here. So this is only district deputies and councils. That doesn't mean that this list is totally inclusive to everything. So we are missing some forms, some of the lesser ones. But we do always supply a link on here that will take you directly to Supreme's page. And you can see that one right here. That will take you directly to Supreme's page for the council. So if there's a form that's not on here that you can't see, you can click this and it'll take you directly there. If we scroll down a little bit, and that's a long list of forms, by the way, you're going to see these things that we call hotmail addresses. And these are the things that we created 6 years ago now under Bob Gilliland and Bob Collins' administration that are distribution emails. So if you have a Form 100 that you want to send into Supreme, and we'll talk a little bit about this in a second, use the Form 100 at kfcohio.org email address. If you're sending a PDF report of your 185, which happens to be the officers chosen for the next fraternal year, Form 185 at kfcohio.org. And when you send it to that email address, it sends it to Supreme, it sends it to the state. Does not send it to the district deputy, because we do not have that ability to be able to say to a third one and change it up all the time. So you will still need to do that. But at least we'll send it to the state and Supreme. You will get a confirmation message back from both Supreme and the state. Now, granted, Supremes will have a number on it because they file it and then they put it into their tracking system. The state, you're just going to get an acknowledgement that we have received it. There are also a couple of extra hot email addresses for district deputies. And of course, if you need to get a hold of the state deputy, the easiest way to do it is just put state deputy at kfcohio.org, and the email will automatically be forwarded to him. Those two key sections, pubs and resources and forms and emails, should have 95% of what you need, your Grand Knights need, or any of your council members need to effectively run programs and so forth. Like I said, once again, if it's not there, please let us know, and we'll be able to go in there and update it appropriately. But we think we've got most of it on there. That's the state website. And we specifically designed the state's website, once again, to be your primary source. So if you can't find it there, you can always go to the Supreme website. And they've done a lot of remodeling on this in the last 2 years. And for those of us that use the old one, it takes a little getting used to. But the key thing for you to remember is really this 4 members box up here, this red one in the upper right-hand corner. If you click on that, and let it catch up here with me. There we go. This will take you into everything that you want to know, similar to the pubs and resources and forms and email section on the state website. Now they've got a couple other things in here, caveats and so forth, fraternal operations. They have a lot of training and webinars information. As you know, we've done a lot of webinars over the last 2 years. Different ceremonials, engaging your members. Nightcast, as you can see, will start coming back into here on November 11th. And they have other information. This page, the state website, get familiar with. The more you know it and the more you know where things are at, the easier it will make your job. I can't say how many times I would go on there and say, somebody would send me an email or a text and say, hey, Jim, where's this? And I would go, did you check the state website? Oh, no. Then go to this website and check it out. And of course, we would have it there. If it's not, I'll help you find it. Once again, we'll put it on the state website. You need to explore both the state and the Supreme websites so that you know them like the back of your hand, because people are going to ask you. So with that, let me see if I flip back over to here. That concludes, those are the two primary resources we would like you to use. Obviously, you'll have your own council resources and booklets and job descriptions that you happen to put together over the years that will help facilitate what you're doing at the council level. But this will take care of the state and Supreme levels. So with that, we're going to now really jump into the meat and potatoes of things. And I'm going to switch back over to here. So let's go back to the home page. I'm going to scroll back up. Up here in the right-hand corner, there's a little box here. And I know it's probably a little hard for you to see on your screen, but you can trust me. It says sign in. The Supreme website requires you to have a login. The state website, there is no login for council, officers, or members. The only thing that there is a login for is for the program directors to grade the general program reports. So I've had a couple requests come to me in the last couple of weeks saying, I can't sign into the state website, or I can't sign into the website. I can guarantee you 99% of the time, if somebody asks me that question, I'm going to turn around and ask them, what are you trying to sign into? Because the state website has nothing for you to sign into. If it's Supreme, that's a different story. And that takes me to the screen that we're at right now. This will allow you to get into Officers Online, which allows you to get into the different applications and so forth. As a financial secretary, you are given by Supreme a username and a temporary password. What you'll want to do is type in, I got to get to the right screen. So you would type in your username and your password that you received from Supreme and click sign in. If you happen not to remember what your user ID is, or maybe you lost a letter that it came in or the email, there is a set button right underneath here called Account Assistant. And if you click on Account Assistant, give it a second to catch up, it's going to ask you some specific questions. And all these fields need to be filled out. Your last name, your date of birth, your email, and it wants to prove that you're not a robot. Supreme will then go through its records, verify your last name, your date of birth, and the email address that's on file. And if there's a username associated with it, you'll get an email back with, hey, here's your username. And it'll take you back to the login screen. Let's go back. So once you have your username, hopefully you remember your password. And if you're like my wife, she writes them all down in a little booklet. Me, I am variations on a theme. So it kind of keeps things going that way. But, you know, with the increasing amount of hackers and spam people out there in the world, we may need to reset our password. And down here in the lower left-hand side, it's where you can see password reset. And you can simply go in there, click that, and you'll be able to reset your password. Every 60 days, I believe it is, Supreme will ask you to update your password anyway. So if they want to keep it fresh. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. You get to see all the trade secrets. I got to remember what now here's the trick. I got to remember what my password was. And we'll give it a second here to catch up. It will now go into Officers Online. And you're going to see all this kind of stuff. And you're going to see a little bit more here than what you see on yours, but I'm going to give you at least a little bit of a rundown. Up here in the corners where you can change your password. Here's where you're going to log out. Different languages and FAQs. Right here in this section is where it says change role. You know, we all wear many hats. Hopefully yours just says financial secretary. Thank you, Steve. I know the industry is 90 days. If you have a different role, you might want to be able to see that. So I'm going to pull this down. You can see the different roles I've got. For the purpose of this training session, I am going to rack it down to state trainer. That gives me a lot of everything. And then the system will give you access to the things that you are required to for that role that you have selected. It'll tell you the last day you logged in. You can see is at 7:27. There's a section here on urgent messages, and it changes throughout the years. Take a look. Right now, the urgent messages contain all the information from the past Supreme Convention. So if you were looking for anything from that, something about on July 1st, how Supreme assessments were waived, and then on the safe environment, how email addresses can no longer be the generic type, like grandnight@kfcxxx.org. The nice thing I like is they got these arrows here, and I can shrink that down. The next thing you're going to see is a little bit of what they call a path or tree. You'll see the state. For most of you, you're going to see your council. I'm going to type in my council just so we can use that as reference for today. So you'll see state, the district, and the council that it is in. You won't see assembly unless you happen to be a faithful navigator or a comptroller. And then it would look the same. It would just say Ohio District 1, Assembly 3105 for me. That tells you where you're at and what you're looking at. So for me or any of the other state officers, we have access to all of the councils to at least look at them, not do much of anything else. So that keeps us straight with where we're looking and so forth and what data we're trying to access. The section immediately down below is the supporting applications. And you'll see things like the officer desk reference, which is a scaled down, easily searchable bylaws of the Supreme Council and the Constitution kind of combined into a desk reference. Very good resource. As state advocate, I've used that multiple times here in the first 5 to 6 months that I've had this position, to be able to find things to help councils understand different things about the operations and information flow. There's the Office of Youth Protection, which is the safe environment information, and that will take you over to that website. If you happen to be a hall-based, years ago, there was the initiative to separate home corporations from the council. All that documentation happens to be there. The next two sections are the two that we're going to talk about a little bit later in a little bit more detail: member management and member billing. Night gear, obviously, is where you can buy apparel and anything else that you would like. And then there's supplies online. Now, you won't have the Canadian version. They were nice. They gave it to me. But the supplies online basically replaces the old catalog that the FSs used to get and order things through. And then most everything on there is searchable and so forth. The numbers that were used in the catalog are used in supplies online. So if you happen to know the number, you can just type it in the search box and it will be able to find it for you. Scroll down a little bit further. I'm at the end of my rope here. You'll see a section on membership, and that gives you an idea of where you're at. As you can see, my council's quota is 9. Nothing so far this month, and we've had 1 so far the year, which is 11%. Our total council membership is 193, and we've gained and lost 1 insurance member. So kind of gives you a snapshot of where your council is. The next section, next tab, is reports. And these are different various reports that you can get from Supreme. Specifically as an FS, the roster, because you're going to want to keep an eye on that and make sure things are getting updated appropriately. They give it to you both in a PDF and an Excel. If you're an Excel guy, it's really great and easy to put searches on it or filters or any of those other kinds of things, or additional columns for calculations and stuff. It works out really well. They also give you the roster in January 1st and of July 1st. In July 1st, sometimes we use that to compare what has changed from July 1st to, let's say, November 2nd, and so forth. You'll get a financial statement on here, safe environment status that you can see where your council is at, as well as the participation rate of the guys who are supposed to be taking it from your council. And then as FS, you know, you get that wonderful bill from Supreme. If you happen to misplace it, you can easily go back here and get it. And you can see the dates on there when things are last updated. The next tab over, forms. So all those forms that I showed you that are on the state website, that are also available on the Supreme website, are also available in here for you. So you really have 3 sources that you can go to find any form that you want. Obviously, the Supreme website and this section in Officers Online has all the forms. As I said before, the state, we put the most popular ones on there, but gave you a link to the Supreme ones. So any form that you want to happen to find, it's here for you. And they usually will have either a PDF, which is usually a fillable PDF, or if it happens to have an online version, they'll have that link there for you as well. The next tab over is publications. And these are all videos, excuse me, that have to do with the training that's available for you, as well as any magazines such as Nightline that we typically now are getting versus in our email addresses, any handbooks, inviting men to join, different things to be able to help you out. Those are the 4 that you will normally see. Now, as financial secretaries, you get a bonus. And of course, I don't have those, so I've got to flip back over to my slide presentation, because we're going to talk about submitting a Form 100. There are 2 additional tabs that are usually on this Officers Online, the Prospect tab and the Candidate tab. The Candidate tab is the new electronic Form 100, and it's used to submit for additions and transfers that are not e-members. All right, we'll leave them off to the side here for a second. So if you happen to have a new candidate, instead of whipping out a Form 100, writing down all the information, you can still do that, but then you have the opportunity to be able to put it into the system here. And you do that by simply hitting the Add button, which I have circled there. The Add button will then pop open all the drop downs and the text box fields that you need that are exactly or relatively similar to the Form 100. Once a gentleman takes his exemplification, you enter the ceremonial date, and boom, within a week, it will transfer. It's not as instantaneous as you would think in the electronic world. Supreme updates the rosters once a week, typically on Tuesdays. That's the easiest way to put in a Form 100, is use the Candidate tab. If you happen to have an e-member, then we have the Prospect tab. And the state online e-membership director, who happens to be Stuart Vetter, he will add the gentleman, the e-member, to your prospect list. Then it's up to you to follow the steps that we will send you to reach out to the prospect, introduce yourself, the council. And this doesn't have to be you directly. It could be the council membership director or the Grand Knight, and see if he is interested in joining the local council. And if he is, great. He could take his exemplification, whether it's live in person, on the state Zoom ones, or the Supreme video. Once you get that date, you put it in the ceremonial date, and he goes from being a prospect to being a member within that week. And you can simply do that by hitting the Add button, and once again, all the drop-down boxes will show up. This works for e-members. So you have the Candidate tab for new members, and you have the Prospect tab for e-members. Finally, you can still submit by taking a picture, which a lot of people do, or scanning the paper Form 100 and sending it to, as one of those hot emails that we said, form100@kscohio.org. And that will automatically send it to Supreme membership at KFC Ohio, or KFC.org, excuse me, the state membership director, and the state deputy. Finally, if you have no other alternative and you have to send it USPS, you can do that. However, take for note, especially during the COVID time, there are very limited people actually at Supreme. And it will take longer to process a paper copy than an email copy than a prospect or candidate tab candidate. So ideally, you would like to try to use the candidate and prospect tab. If not, then take a picture and email it to Supreme and the state. If you really have to, then mail it. But we're trying to recommend that you do not mail it. So that's how we're going to be getting a Form 100 in. And that is part of the FS's position to be able to do that. So now that we've entered that, we're going to actually go into and take a look, where does that information go that we put into the candidate or prospect tab or the Form 100 eventually that Supreme puts in. Let's flip back over to here. So we're going to go into member management. Now I'm going to be working in my council. You click on member management and you're going to get this lovely little box. And it's basically just telling you that receive the following required roles for appointment, blah, blah, blah. Safe environment can be found here. But you've got two buttons on here that are very important. The one on the left is for live. And live means if you go in there, anything you change or anything you update will be affected. So if you change somebody's address, you hit save, it's done. The button on the right, which is the one that we're going to be going into because the live one's grayed out for me, is the training section, which takes the exact same data that is in your current live version, but allows you to go ahead and play around in there and do things without affecting the real data. Let's just put things that way. So for the purposes of this session, I will go into the training session. The only thing that's going to look different in here is this nice little thing up here that says training application. You won't see that if you're in the live version. And once you come into member management, you're actually into find a member. This is a general sort function. And then you can sort on active members or former members. And then all you would have to do is type in either their last name. We'll type mine in. If you happen to know their membership number, you can type that in and search either way. Wildcards can be used too, specifically the asterisk. So let's just say I go M and hit that. Click on the search button. Give it a second. And then you get everybody whose name starts with M that's in my council. And you can see we got 18 of us. We're not as powerful as I thought we were. And simply to be able to look at one of the guys, you need, these are all hyperlinks by their names. That's my son. And here's me. And if I click on my name, my information starts to show up. This is information that the FS and or Grand Knight can edit. So let's take a step back here for a millisecond. The financial secretary and the Grand Knight both have access to member management. So they can both update information on the member. The FS only has access to member billing. Keep that in mind. So this is the general information tab. It's got my name, all that good stuff, my address, phone numbers. You guys can now spam me if you want. If I had a nice summer home in Montana or something, I would probably have my address here. If they happen to go be like a snowbird, you can put in the dates they go down there. They leave December 1st. That will reroute the mailing to whatever address they have here. Finally, Supreme gives you the choice of putting in 3 emails if you would like. Obviously, the primary one will be used. Whenever you edit any of these sections, you'll notice it has a save address info button or save email button. You must hit that button for that section. If you do not hit it, it does not save it. So let me repeat that. If I edit this, let's say if I put in my work phone number, just for giggles, 216-2925. So if I put in my work number, I must hit the save address for it to stay in there. If I don't, it will not save it. That's general information. You can see some things here at the top of the header. The next section is fraternal information. We click on that. And this is specific information about your fraternal information. Sorry, I guess that sounds kind of redundant. Tells you what type of person you are, what class, any exemptions that you might be able to have, when you took your first, second, and third degree. Especially now, if you start to take the exemplification of charity, unity, and fraternity, obviously all 3 degrees are combined into that. Your first degree, second degree, and third degree dates will all be the same. Excuse me. If you happen to withdraw or be suspended and come back in, you'll see a re-entry date down here. Supreme is big on continuous years of service. Hence the other side over here, of continuous years of service since last day of entry. There's different rules that apply to that. If you happen to be in the 4th degree member, which is what this nice little icons up here show you, your assembly information will be entered in here as well. Once again, another save button that must be updated anytime you make a change in here. It has information for the person who proposed you. As you can see, it was John Brown. You can update that. And then down below shows any of the officer or program positions that this person happened to have. And it only truncates it a little bit here, so you can see. Then there's also a display all if you want to see if they happen to be involved for a number of years and see what they happen to be involved in. That is fraternal information that you can update as financial secretary. There's a personal information tab. What parish you belong to, if you want to put your job in there, your marital status, your employer, birthday automatically comes across. If they happen to be a deacon or a priest, you can put that in here, Monsignor. There's different selected ones already in there. And you can put their anniversary or their ordination date. Once again, whatever you change in here, hit the Save Member Info button. Down below, it has spouse information, anniversary date, her name, date of birth. Once again, hit the Save. And then for the purpose of many years ago, I think I did this when we were first starting with, is I put the kids in here. So both my children are in here, even though now they're adults. As FS, you're going to have the undoubtedly probably of having a member pass away at some point in time. You could always send a Form 100 to Supreme, either email or USPS, or you can go into member management here and just put in the deceased date, and it automatically will be updated. You'll notice on some of these on the next to it, they have a little calendar. Makes it a little bit easier for you to be able to find a date, but I find it easier to just type it in for me personally. But if it's easier for you to click and select, there is an option for you to do that in any of these calendars. If you happen to have next of kin information, you can put it in here, but most cases you probably won't. But at least the deceased date would be nice. Once again, hit Save Info once you are done. Scroll back up. You can actually in here, which is nice, is what interests the member. So there are forms available on Supreme that they can send out that you can give to your new candidate or new member or even your existing members to find out what it is that interests them. certainly you can be able to do that and check off what programs they like. So that when there's a report that you can run, you can take a look at that. And you can see some of the programs that I've checked over the years. And they have updated this to be reflective of the Faith in Action programs. There are opportunities for you to add council-specific programs under Add Family, Add Community that are maybe unique to you. Like we do a bunny brunch when it gets close to Easter time for the little kids. We could add that in here if we wanted to. I'm really interested in doing that. Any questions you guys happen to come up with, I'll come back to. So just go ahead and keep typing them in there. I'm not going to acknowledge them at this point. So, but good questions are coming in. I appreciate it. Finally, there's two last sections, contact notes. So as an FS, if you happen to reach out and you make contact with someone, you can put the note in here, and that way it'll be kept in here so that the Grand Knight can say, hey, yeah, I see John made a contact with him and I don't have to worry about it. Or, you know, family situations up, because remember, when the Grand Knight and the FS will see what's in here so that they understand completely what's going on. Good feature. I don't know how many councils are actually using it yet, but we tried using it a few times. It does get a little bit on cumbersome side, but it is nice to have it there if you were to do anything. It's obviously, you can see nobody's put a note in for me, so I must be doing something either right or wrong. I can't figure out which. And last but not least, there's a change history that you can go in here and take a look how things were changed, whether it's by the member. You can put in a date range. So let's just put in this year just to give you an idea, to 10/31/2021. And if I hit search, obviously it'll give you all the changes that we've made to our guys over that time frame. So guys' new addresses and so forth. So it's a good idea in case you something missed. If you don't know what it was, it'll tell you what the old data was versus what the new data is in case you need to go back. That's the only time that's been really good. That is where, so we've gone from putting in a Form 100 to seeing where that data is now in member management. The other thing that member management provides us with is updating council-specific information. And across the top, you'll see where it says Council Administration. And if you click on that tab, it brings us specific information about your council. In this particular case, you can see who my financial secretary and Grand Knight are and their contact information. The contact information, phone number, email address that we use, our website, those kind of things are in there. Once again, make any changes, save the data. The parishes that we serve, those are the three. Where we meet, our mailing address, which happens to be our P.O. box. And then where do we want any of the mailing to happen to go to, which is our P.O. box. Once again, you make a change in here, save it. Finally, meeting information. There's the business meeting, which you can see we have in the McGivney room at the Laner Center in St. Ambrose on the first Tuesday of the month at 7:30. We do a rosary at 7. We have an officers meeting on the 4th Tuesday, and we usually have a social on the 3rd Tuesday. So that information can be put in here. Any more than that, you're not going to be able to put in here. They only look at those 3 right now. So, and I would suspect that the title might be changing to from officers/planning meeting with the new meeting guidelines that Supreme happens to be putting out. Make a change, save it. I cannot reiterate that enough. This is great information, specifically for a district deputy or for a state officer or somebody who wants to go in there and see who the contact people are and when things are, what's going on inside a council. So we know who to reach out to. Even though we get the Form 185 and the 365, it takes a while to process those. Supreme has been very generous in allowing us to have downloads of data to be able to do that now. But I can tell you, as much as 6 years ago, we were hand typing all that information in. And it takes a long time to do that, as many of you are probably aware. So by all means, that's why we now are trying to just keep our records updated. So that's why we ask every year, are there any changes along the lines? The last section I want to talk about in member management is the Print Center. So we're going to click on that last section where it says Print Center MM. Here's where you can get reports from member management only. So remember, we're only in member management at this particular point in time. Current officers, next year's fraternal officers, if you set it up. Current service program personnel, next ones. Members' birthdays. How hard is it to run a quick thing and send out a birthday card once a month? Or have somebody do that. You can give them the list and say, here, okay, here's my birthday, chairman, go for it. Years of service, wedding anniversaries, if that information is available, and so forth. And you can go down through any of these. There are labels that you can generate here, print out. And you can see, and Supreme only gives you a couple different options. They're the most common ones you're going to get is probably that middle one, the Avery 8160s or the 5260s. Those are the 1 inch by 2 5/8 that everybody uses at 30 to a page. Those are very good. It works out very nicely. You can choose which members you want to have particular labels out for. There are, let's scroll back up, billing reports, income in, income activity, transaction, and events. I wouldn't worry about that from this particular menu because in member billing, there is a print center that also has these reports. But from a Grand Knights point of view, if they're interested, they can at least run the report to see what's going on. And when you run these reports, it runs it as a PDF. So for example, I will just go in here and say, let's look at our council officers. It'll run, you'll get this nice little message with the spinning globe. And when it's done, you'll get the button here that says click here to open. And then it will open. And then it download. I got my computer set up to download it, but then you can open it and see it. One of the best tools that I've used over the years is this data extract tool. And you can see the different information that you can pull out from your members. And it was really great when I was Grand Knight to be able to have not only the fraternal and personal information, but have members' interest, because we were really making a concentrated effort to get that information. And we can print it out and give it to our program directors, which helped them out a lot to be able to know who to contact to help out with various different programs that we were running. This does dump it as an Excel spreadsheet or CSV file. So you will need to have some kind of spreadsheet application, whether it's Excel or numbers if you happen to use the Apple products. Website support to assist in generating a data file that can be used with the local websites for supporting and member login features. We really don't use that. Supreme has tried to even put in an email application for you, and it does work very decently. You can pick, once again, which members you would like to send an email to, provided their email address is in member management. If it's not, it will not send it. So that's why it's very important to keep their contact information up to date. Down below, then you'll be able to put in blind copy if you want to send it to yourself, subject, your message, and you can attach up to 3 files that are approximately 6.5 megabytes each. You'll send it. It does take a little bit of time, but eventually it does go out. When I was comptroller several years ago, I used the internal email message for sending out my billing the first go around, and it worked out really well as an attachment. That's member management. You have member data that you can update, whether it's general, fraternal, personal, members' interests. You have council administration information update, when you meet, where you meet, who your Grand Knight, who your FS is. And then you have the print center, which allows you to generate different reports to be able to see what the data is in there that you happen to have. Once we have all that done, you want to bounce out, you can either hit log out, which will take you back to Officers Online, or there's a tab that says Officers Online. And it brings you back to where you were at. I have to put my council back in, so give me a second. So now we're going to talk a little bit about member billing. Once again, you're going to get the message. Do you want the live site or the training site? In this particular case, like I said, if you make any changes in live, it's permanently changed. Do any changes in playing around in training, you're safe. So if you're uncomfortable with something, do it in training first to see what the results will be. And immediately you're brought right into what they call the council ledger. And you'll get the council information at the top of your screen. I'm going to jump down here a little bit down to what I'm going to go to billing information first before we get into the ledger. Because the billing information is really where we're going to set up how you're going to bill and how you're going to track your finances in your council. First of all, generic information, what's your billing schedule, frequency, which currency are you using, obviously the billing address, and who you want the checks made out to. Once again, hit save when any of that's done. Class list. Here's where you're going to set the amount of dues that are paid regularly. As you can see there, for regular members, we pay $30. Our honorary members pay $11, and obviously honorary life pay nothing. And those two, regular and honorary, can be changed. If you change it, you have to hit the update button. You can define additional classes if you would like. As you can see, we have subclasses underneath here. And most of them have to do with different programs or different things that we are running at different times. Most of them are no charge, as well as the full-time student, we only charge $10 for. And to add one of those subclasses, you would use this method down below. Type it in. You can select which one if you want, and the amount that it's going to be. And when you're done, the save button will show up. You hit save, like right here, and it'll pop up there and be available for you to select when you go to set up the billing for that member. So here's where you're going to do set up billing for each type of member. If you happen to use this for council ledger, you also have accounts you can set up. And Supreme has tried to go in there and put in what it thinks it would need. Doesn't mean it's necessarily correct. And you can see how in this particular one for income, we have two accounts, a charity account and a general account. And actually, this is when I set them up, January 28th, 2010. That was a long time ago. So that way, when we specify when money's come in, it's going to one or the other of those two accounts. For expenses, you can see the ones that Supreme put in here because they got Supreme. But we also put in general expenses and so forth. You can always add more. You don't have to add any because when I show you when we put a ledger in, you'll be able to actually manually type something in there as well. But you want to have a general idea so that you can categorize your expenses. So when you run your reports for your audits, it makes it a lot easier to be able to see. And that's basically where Supreme came up with their ideas. They took the $12.95 and said, what are my categories? And we put it into here and then let the councils add anything that they want. So you can almost see that they were looking down the road to see at some point if we were to use this system to automatically do the $12.95. Here's where you would add an account. There's events and assessments. And we got a list of them, trust me. These are all the different events that we have done over the years since we activated this system. As you can see, there's a long list, and you can add them more. Simply by scrolling to the bottom, you can add an event, edit an event. Can even, well, we never deactivated one, obviously, but we should have. But it all works out. You can do this specifically if you're going to do a program year after year after year. Summerfest at St. Ambrose, we do year after year for the last 10. We made that as a regular program, so it'll come out of expenses, St. Ambrose Summerfest, and we'll know exactly everything that went along with that. There's payee and payer. Now, obviously, you're going to have members that are going to be in there, but you could also have organizations. And I'm going to click on A here. And you'll see names, but you'll also see like All Pro Electric Services, American Legion Post. So any of those organizations that you happen to want to be either receiving money from or donating money to, you want to be able to put, and you do it on a regular basis, you can put it in here as a payee payer, and that way they'll always be available for you. You don't have to type it in each time. Again, at the bottom, here's where you're going to add payee and payer. And of course, again, when you're at it, you want to hit save. You click on member information, and we'll pick on me again. That's easy to do. And there it shows up. Click on me. And there you can see all my billing information. Obviously, the header is the same as, remember, that was in member management. First notice, we'll go out here. It looks like, and I'm paid through the end of this year. Whew, at least I'm currently in good shape. My dues, Marty, our financial secretary, must have ran this. So my dues, $30 are due. Must be getting ready to do billing. And then we have a $5 assessment. I'll show you the assessments here in a minute. And so therefore you'll see the assessments down below, payments that were received, any credits. It's kind of like a little mini ledger, transactions down below. You can also put in any adjustments to that account that will show up here in your transaction log as a credit or charge. And you'll have different things that you can select from. It's dues, initiation fee, special assessment, miscellaneous, the amount. The nice thing is they give you a description field. And it is long, 128 characters. I don't think I ever wanted more than 50 characters. So, and then this box here, reason for adjustment, would show up if it happens to be an adjustment. You must save the adjustment for it to stay. You also notice on the side here, you make a boo-boo, there is a void button. And all you'd have to do is check it and hit save void, and it will take it out. That's billing information, member ledger. Oops, sorry, hit the wrong one. So if I go under billing information for me, I'm a regular. You can either do not send a bill or do not assess. Certainly for people with disabilities and stuff, we do not assess. We also have a subclass that we put in here for disabilities that you cannot see. We do most of ours by mail, although I think Marty's starting to switch over to email. That'd be nice. Obviously, my address and contact information. You notice I did update my work phone number before. It's still in here. I hit save. And then there's the seasonal address and emails. So that information that we entered in member management comes directly over to here so that they know where to send my membership dues billing to. Then there's contact notes. Same thing as the contact notes before that were in member management. They would come over to here so that you can see it. Transfers, I'm going to be honest with you, I have never done this before. And when I was actually researching and going through this, I have yet to find really a need to use that. So I'm going to actually hold off on that until I get a little bit more information on it. So I guess that would mean if I'm transferring, but I'm certainly not. Maybe it also means that if let's try it since we're in test phase, right? Can't screw any data up. Won't give you that. Let's go by date. So let's go 1-1. You have to put the leading 0, unfortunately. It's not very Excel-ish if you want to. All right, so we had 3 transferred. Okay, those are the 3 guys that transferred into our council. Interesting. Learn something new every day. And then the last thing under member council billing is the email tool. Similar to the email tool that we were showing earlier, you can choose whichever you want to email or who you want to email and so forth. And then the email app down below works just the same. Now let's jump back up here to council ledger. This is where it gets a little bit funky. And right now, so when you initially come into member billing, this is what you're going to see. You have receipts, which correspond to monies that you are giving to the treasurer as an FS. And you will log those receipts in. I don't know if I have any, probably not. So you can type in the name, search, it pops up in the search results. You click on you. No, I don't. But I could put one in if I wanted to. So I'm entering receipt. I'm giving him check 1, 2, 3, 4 in the amount of $50. Which account am I putting it into? This is going to go into, let's say, our charity account. Total of $50 is going in, but you do have the option to split it. I'm going to support the Bunny Brunch, as we talked about earlier, and this will be candy purchase. And if I hit save, it's in there. You do that for anything that happens to come into the financial secretary. And what you're going to be able to do is when you go to your meeting is you can generate a receipts report that you can give to the treasurer so that he has a record of everything that was put in and given to him. Similar to the book. If you go back to the book, the nice thing about this system is it allows you to have more detail. Instead of just having that little book and having a receipt for each one, you would have one report that contains them all. When you send out membership dues, you want to collect them in, obviously. And you would want to go into the dues collection tool. And I'm going to pick on me again, because it's easy to do. So you would come in here. You can see the alphabet. You can see, okay, here I am, James Maslack, first notice, $35. As an FS, you can come in here and says, yep, Jim gave me $30. And that would be check 1, 2, 3, 5. So I use 4 before. I can't be consistent. And then I can say save. And you'll notice that now my total went from 35 to 5. Makes it quick and easy. You can put these all in there. Doesn't mean it's been processed yet, okay? It only puts it into pending status. And I'll show you that in the next section. Excuse me. And you can do this for any number of them. And a seasoned FS can really probably fly through this relatively quickly. So it doesn't take too long to do. Once you get those all in, all the receipts that you have coming, you can then go to pending receipts. And that shows you, remember we put in the 2. Here's the $50 donation that I put in and my $30 worth of dues that I'm submitting. This hasn't been finalized yet, but it shows you they're pending so that way you can check through the record as FS and make sure that I catch everything that I have that I am going to give to the treasurer. This is another checks and balances kind of way for yourself. It tells you the number of transactions you're going to have and the amount that you're going to transfer to the treasurer. Typically, we would run this either just before the meeting. Some FSs in the old format of the meeting would do it at the meeting, just before their report. You know, going into the new officer and planning meeting session, you can probably do it at that point as well. It does require you to use a printer to print out because it does generate a PDF. But once you have all those in there, and you can look at them or you can edit them, or let's say you made a mistake, you can easily go, now Jim didn't pay his dues, Robert paid his dues. And I can go in there and say, I can just delete it. I'll say, okay. And boom, it takes that out. And if you go back into the dues collection tool, just to make sure things work right, and there I am back at $35. So it does go back and forth very easily and very effectively. Once you have those all in there and you want to process it, and you're ready to, as I like to used to say, cement the deal, is when you want to process it. And you can hit that by just hitting the process button. This will change things. And Edge asks me the question. Yes, I want to do that. And it processed it. Now, where did it go is the question you're probably going to ask me next. And we'll take a look here in a second. You can take a look at receipts history. You can do it by date, by batch, by receipt number, by member, by payer. More than less likely, you're going to use by date because it's easier to do. I'm just going to pick on October for my council here and see, did we do anything in October? And we hit search. And you can see here's the receipts that were given in. We had charity income of $80. And Andrew Kamel paid his dues. And then we had two things go to the charity and to the general. And if you wanted to break it down, you can look at each individual receipt here by simply clicking on it. And we'll do this one. And it'll tell you there's multiple ones. Football sweepstakes tickets. So the information's there and easy for you to get to. That is how you're going to handle money from the FS to the treasurer. In a similar fashion, you're going to do vouchers. And vouchers go from the treasurer, from the FS to the treasurer for what checks need to be written. Same, similar setup. If I want to pay a member a check, say you have expenses from an event that you ran, type in his name, search. I'm going to select the member. It pops down his information here. How much is his check? $25. Where did it go to? It was a charity expense. $25, we'll say. This is why we put all our events in there when we do it. But if you don't happen to have one in there, it's not a mandatory field, but it does help to be able to put things in there. And let's say we did the Easter baskets. And you can put in here again, candy purchase. And you hit save. Once again, it puts it into the pending status, and we'll be able to take a look at it when we go to pending vouchers. If it happens to be an organization, this is where you would set up a payee. You can come in here and type in, we'll say, let's try Legion. I'm not sure exactly how it'll take it. It's probably got to be American. So there's the American Legion. We'll pick on the VFW post. I'm going to write them a donation check. I'd like to write one for $100. Charity expenses, $100. And let's see if I can scroll down here to the bottom and see if we got something that makes sense. VFW Flag Day ceremony that we've done, and this would be for food. And I hit save. Once again, it puts it into pending status. Once you have all the vouchers that you want to submit for check writing, you can go over to pending vouchers. And similar to what it was in pending receipts, you can see I'm going to send a check to Jim for $25 and the American Legion for $100. Doesn't give you the details here, but you could do that by hitting edit. It also gives you the option to delete it in case you make a mistake. The total transactions or vouchers that you're writing, as well as the amount. To cement the deal, once again, you need to process the vouchers. And to do that, you hit process vouchers. Answer if your browser ad gives you any questions, and boom, they're gone. They've been processed. You can verify that by going to voucher history, putting in the dates, and it's going to put today's date. So I'm going to put 11-01-2021. And I'm going to put 1130-20. See, So used to Excel, my fingers just automatically go there. Hit search. And there you can see the vouchers that have been processed and are ready to be turned over to the treasurer for check writing. There are going to be times that you're going to want to do assessments. Assessments would include assessing dues. And the first thing we're going to set up is how do we want to assess our dues? Right now, it is initially set up for this current fraternal year or calendar year, because that's how we remember we set up our billing information that we're going to do it based on the calendar year. Your other option, if you wanted to do that, would be by fraternal year. But this is for this year. So I need to go in here and change it to next year. Supreme will always have the next year available. They will not have any years after that. It's going to be the first notice. And here, what date, as of what date do you want this to take place? Typically during the financial secretary's training, billing takes place, and if you go back even to the timeline that we showed earlier, is in December. And it's typically December 15th. So most people will put in 12/15/2021. That way you can go ahead and generate them, get your folding, if you're going to mail them, get labels made up, get everything taken care of so that you can send it out in time. This can be done at any time. It does not need to be done specifically at this time of the year, but you want to make sure all your ducks in a row before you do this step. So that means making sure your billing information is correct, your membership information is up to date, and so forth. Because once you assess dues, the process begins. So I'm already going to set this up for, hopefully this time it'll keep it, not bounce me off. And I'm going to assess dues. Please wait. And boom, you'll get, it says fail because I actually did this last night as a test. So then I can go into update status. And actually I should have said something, I apologize. Down below, it tells you what your rates are and what you're charging for on your, that we set up in billing information. So it gives you an opportunity to double check and say, whoa, wait a minute, I want to charge my deputy grand knight $30. And you can take that in there if you use that subclass. So right now, as you can see, it updated the first notice, suggested processing date, because it's going based on the calendar year, and when I said I was going to process it. And it's already set up for first notice. In order to move to the second notice, you need to come into this update status in January, put in the date that you're going to do that, because it's already set for the right billing period. It's already set to tell you that, hey, we're going to be doing the second notice, and you click update billing status. And when you do that, all the ones that have not paid yet will get generated a second notice. And I'll show you in Print Center where we can generate the different notices that you can send out. You'll do the same thing when you want to go from the second notice to the night alert. And then finally from the night alert to the intent to retain. And you can see based on that, the suggested dates based on Supreme. Does that mean you need to go by those dates? Not necessarily, but it's a good recommendation to do that. I am not going to go ahead and hit this because otherwise it'll screw up my example. There are other assessments that you can put on to your invoice that are either voluntary or mandatory. We put Give Me 5 on there. It's a good example. And you would come in here and you can apply it to the date, to all billable. You can do it to all members, regular, honorary, or honorary life. When it comes to Give Me 5, we send to all members. You put in the amount of $5. We make it voluntary. And we're going to run that from 12/15/2021 to, oops, I put in the wrong date. We typically stop it on April 1st, because that's usually when billing period is pretty much wrapped up and we're working on the intent to retain letters and so forth. And then what is your reason for the assessment? And I'll come in here and we have, give me 5. And this would be measure up donation. We want to put something in the description. And if you hit assess, it'll pop up. That $5 fee will show up on the members' dues. So remember when I said our dues are $30, but when you looked at my record, it said $35. It's because yesterday when I was doing a test run through this, I already set up to give me 5, and it took the $5 into consideration. So that's why it's 35 instead of 30. Eventually you can come in here. Yes, I want to cancel out of that. Once you have them in here as a pending status, you would once again process the assessment and it would be added to your dues invoice. Since it's voluntary, they do not need to pay it. There is a mandatory one that you can put in there as well. And then you can always take a look at what have we done in the past. And you can just pick out in there. See what Marty's got in here. Yeah, we probably did this. Let's go back a little bit further. 12/01/2020. That should have something, I would think. So there are dues assessment that we normally have. There's the Give Me 5. And then recently we started this Charity Begins at Home Fund to help out. So those are different examples of assessments, voluntary assessments that we have put on our dues invoices. Finally, you can make adjustments, but it's easier to do adjustments in another place, but you can take a look at and here and see what other adjustments you may be able to want to do. You put in the date, the amount you're adjusting, put in a detailed description so you understand what it is that you're actually doing. And that way it makes it a little bit more, it'll re-gauge the brain when the time necessarily comes. That's how you handle. So we've gone through this entire process. Let's take a step back here for a second. We've put in a Form 100, whether it's a candidate, prospect, emailed, or USPS mailed. We've updated their information in member management, their general information, paternal, personal, members' interest, and any contact notes that we happen to have. We've then gone through and set up the council information so that that's all up to date. That should probably be a one-time shot unless something major changes. So take a look into that to see if you change your meeting date and time because the rooms change or something, you may want to update it to that point, but that should be a one and done. Then we've gone into member billing as the FS, and we've set up the billing information, which includes what dues are we going to set up, what assessments are we going to have on there, such as the Give Me 5. We've seen, okay, how we process receipts and vouchers, as well as membership dues that come in, and get all that taken care of so that the paperwork flows back and forth. What we haven't shown you yet, and the final thing, is taking a look at the print center. And this is where all those reports are. Similar to the print center that was in member management, there's this print center in member billing. But it's more geared to specifically to the billing aspect. And you can see that right off the bat when you see report of receipts. So we've already put in receipts. This will be the report that you're going to give to the treasurer for the monies that you are going to be giving to him. And you simply can click on that. And I'm going to put in this month because we just made one, right? You have a PDF or an Excel. Excel is really great when you get ready to do your semi-annual audit. It does take a little bit of reformatting to do, but once you get it in there, you can do Excel things, do it to your heart's content, which makes it a lot easier. But for the purpose of your meeting, I would keep it at the PDF. You can run that report. You get the nice little funky box again, and it will eventually show up. Here we go. Click to open. I will open this one, so hopefully we can see it. right, open, see if it opens and bingo, wow. Sometimes it's amazing when things actually work right. Now this one's in training, so you're gonna get the banner across there, but you can see we had one charity income from the Bunny Brunch, $50. And it requires the signature of our financial secretary and received by our treasurer. And this is a great report to be able to, it automatically gives you the date range that we put in, the batch range, which you can go by. If it had individual batches, you would have a number next to here as well as the batch number. And it also gives you the receipt number. So that would be another column that would be over here. Very good report to share between the FS and treasurer when you're transferring money back and forth. And it makes it, as I said earlier, really easy to be able to do your semi-annual audits when you have things set up in here. Go back to the print center. Go back to report receipts. If you want more details, and I'm a details-oriented guy, just to show you the difference between the two reports. The other one was more of an overview. This report will get down to the specifics that you put in. This is the report that I would use for the audits. And here we go. And you can see batch numbers included in there. Receipt number, check number, the date it was done, who it went to, what account, event, the description that we put in there, and the amount. This is a very good detailed report, and it is really good when you want to do your audits to be able to sit down and see where did the expenses go or where did the money come in from. That's under specifically transaction details. Similarly, there's a report for vouchers that does the exact same thing as it does for receipts. So we wrote those two vouchers as you saw. Oops. And we can check those out by taking a look at here. Give it a second. Or 5 seconds, I should say. And we open it up. Gotta love veg. And here's the checks. The batch number for the checks, the check numbers, the dates, who is going to with their address information, especially if it's a member. If you have the address information for the American Legion, it would show underneath there, but we did not actually put that in there. What it was there for and so forth, and then the total of all the checks. This requires the signatures of the financial secretary, grand knight, and treasurer. Our council also has the trustees review it. And obviously, as you can see, there is no specific place for the trustees to sign. So as a trustee, they would sign either on the back or off to the side, or in this particular case, there's enough white space off to the mid-left section there that they would sign there. And typically, we like to have all three trustees make sure that we have the right information and so forth. So in case we have to make any changes, it's kind of a little bit more difficult to do at that point in time, but you can still do it. That's a report that the FS will give to the treasurer to write the check. We mentioned billing earlier. You click on billing, you can send out your first notice, second, so forth. And this all goes along with updating your billing status. So as I said earlier, yesterday I put in the first notice. So I can click on first notice. It gives you this place where you can add a little message to it. And this message will print out on the invoice. And we always used to do is please update any contact information or something along those lines. Supreme gives you the option. I want to email that. And now email a PDF to the member, provided they have their email address in member management. Well, I want to mail it. It will generate a master file, which I'll show you here in a second, that you can then print out, and you can have a folding party session and go through that. And you can also create just a file copy. So let's say we want to mail these, just for giggles. I want to generate the notice. Now this will take a little longer because it's going to go through all 193 members of my council, depending on what you want to do. It depends on how you set up your assessments too. Remember, we set one up to do all members for the Give Me 5. And we're up to 20, 24. And you want to make sure that you have a good internet connection when you're doing all this. Actually, it wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be. Click to open. First notice. And here's an example of what you get. So here's the statement up at the top, where to send money to. This will be in the window of the envelope we do. The amount, he's being assessed $5 because he's got a balance due. And then that note we put in here, please, comes down here. It also tells us that there's the Give Me 5 assessment. And it tells, in this particular case, this is not a mandatory assessment. So if he doesn't want to pay it on April 1st, because that's the date we put in there, that'll go away. And in this particular case, it generated 169 pages worth. We're not going to scroll through them all. But then you can print them out and have, like I said, a folding party to be able to do that, and labeling party, unless you use envelopes with windows on them. You can do the same thing when it comes time to do the second, the night alert, and intent to retain letters. And hopefully those get less each time as you're going through. Similar setup, similar functions. It just prints out the second notice, the night alert. And remember, in those that you have to have the grand night sign as well. So, and then the intent to retain. Membership cards you can generate here, and it gives you by a whole different slew of things that you can do. I will forewarn you, the generating these generates a PDF file just like everything else. It doesn't quite line up enough on the cards. You would think that they would be able to get a card that would fit both the front and back. If that is the case and you want to do this, there's another way to do it, and it just depends on how good you are with Excel and Word for doing what we call a mail merge. I have a template set up that I used many years ago, and I've given out to many councils so far, that you would download your roster, as we showed earlier, in Excel format, and then you would set it up so that you can generate those cards through a mail merge. And then it comes out perfect. So if you're going to do this, you may need to play with your printer settings a little bit and adjust it. Just be forewarned. Retention reports. Remember, we talked about how the FS provides reports to the council officers on delinquent requests. Number 2, right there, outstanding balance report. That'll give you an idea. The retention committee report will also be a good report to hand out after you get done with the first notices, so everybody can see who's left in case we have to reach out and make contact with people. Journals and ledger entries. These go back to just be able to reports to help out when you do your semi-annual audit. Labels, obviously, are the same labels that we showed earlier, mostly for mailing. The 1" by 2 5/8 is very good. Miscellaneous reports, you can generate a report just for about any kind of data that you happen to put in here. The 2 examples they have are by the sub-account or by the payee-payer list. Personally, I go back to, once again, I love the data extraction tool. I can pick and choose what I want to have data come out for, depending on what it is I am trying to do. And in most cases, I am using this data for the audit. This is where I'll go to extract it out into an Excel or CSV file. It works out a lot easier. So we've gone through the entire process from submitting a Form 100 to updating member management, making sure that's up to date, and generating billing and accounting into member billing. Once you're all done, obviously we log back out and we're back to here. That's, believe it or not, is a brief introduction to how this does. There are some sub menus underneath it that how to set up an accounts and stuff like that. And this is where I simply say, if I switch back over here to my PowerPoint, what's next for you? First and foremost, if you're an FS or Grand Knight and you do not have a username or password from Supreme, contact Supreme to get that information. And once you log in, they'll give you a temporary password, so you'll have to change it. And once you do that, play around in it, but play around in the training side of member management and member billing until you get comfortable with what's going on inside there. If you need help, you can certainly contact your district deputy. You can certainly contact me, and we'll be more than happy to say, no, this is where you want to be able to go and find this and make it a lot easier for you. We're also willing to sit down with you. There's a couple councils I'm going to be working with that have had some issues. The biggest thing you got to make sure, and I can't stress this enough, and it being somebody who works in data all day long at work, you got to make sure what you're putting into the system, so whatever's in member management and member billing, is good data, and you are being consistent with keeping up with it. If you can't do that, then you're going to get garbage out, and it makes it a lot more difficult to deal with later on down the road. And my phone rings. So please make sure that you take that into consideration. And that's why I'm saying, take a look at it and practice in the training mode first. If you need help contacting Supreme, by all means, please reach out to me and I'll give you the contact information. But you can find all that by going to the fraternal planner, and on the opening page in there, they give you a list of contacts, and you can simply email Expert FS, or you can do member management, or even council or fraternal mission, and they will be able to direct you to the appropriate place. So before we go to a closing prayer, let me take a look through some of your questions here and see if I haven't answered some of them. I appreciate you guys being a little bit patient with me here this evening. Steve, you asked about the PGK being added. Yes, you can add that salutation, and some councils have it there, some don't. You have to go into there and add it specifically, and when you and I get together to work on your situation, we can certainly do that and put it in there. John Irwin, if deceased has insurance, is it required to include next of kin? Not necessarily in member management. The insurance side of the business will handle it from their internal system. So they will need to have something there, but they'll need to know, and they're going to reach out to the survivors anyway, next of kin that they have on record and as beneficiaries on the policies. John House, for transfer, I should submit a Form 100 via photo or scan. Right now, yes. Even though they say you can use the candidate tab for transfers, I've only seen it used very successfully for adding new members. I know they were going to be working to make sure that the transfer does work at some point in the future, but to be on the safe side for now, yeah, send the Form 100 via email. It makes life a lot easier. George, the last time I used member cards, it does not have the KSC emblem on it. I'm trying to remember, actually, if you purchase the cards through Supplies Online, if it doesn't already have the emblem on it. If it doesn't, then as I said before, with the template I have, we can simply add the emblem. I know I did that for the 4th degree because we did it in a slightly different spot, so we can put a little bit more information on the card. If it does not have it, we can make it happen. Paul, can you send the membership card template to those on the call? I can certainly do. I'll put that out there. Since this is mostly, I think, the Cleveland Diocese, I do have all of your email addresses, and I will send that out to you all. Like I said, it's going to take a little bit of mail merging your Excel file to Word, and if you're good at it, not a problem. You'll figure it out, no problem. If you don't, give me a holler. And actually, that's all the questions I have. So if there's no more questions right now, then we will go ahead and conclude in prayer. And I figured, as we did, this is the year of St. Joseph, and I'll be sending an email out later tonight for the St. Joseph icon, that we would close in prayer to him. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail, guardian of the Redeemer, spouse of the Blessed Virgin Mary. To you, God entrusted his only Son. In you, Mary placed her trust. With you, Christ became man. Blessed Joseph, to us too, show yourself a father and guide us in the path of life. Obtain for us grace, mercy, and courage, and defend us from every evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time this evening. As much as this is going to be painful, I will take constructive criticism, so please feel free to offer any suggestions to what I can do differently, I can do better. I certainly want to make sure that you are well informed of what's going on and some different techniques that are out there. So we're going to be trying to do some things a little bit differently over the next year or so. And FS seemed to be definitely the way to start out with. This presentation will be put on our YouTube channel, as I mentioned earlier. And then I will put a link on I'll send a link out to everybody who's on the call. I'll probably send it out to all the FSs and GKs anyway, so that they have it as well. And I will put it on the state website so it's there for anybody to be able to see. Once again, I want to thank you for your time this evening. And I hope that you all have a very blessed Thanksgiving if I don't get to see you, and a great Advent and Christmas season. And I hope to see you around soon. Vivat Jesus. Thank you for attending.